it's John from Heroes and Legends, and today I want to do something a little bit different. This was actually a suggestion from a friend of mine. I really like the idea, so I want to try it out, see if this is something you all found helpful. But today we're going to talk about sealed magic, and basically how to take a card pool in a sealed event, or maybe a pre-release, and turn that card pool hopefully into a deck that will do well for you in the tournament. So I'm going to share with you my thought process as we go through this pool from Amonkhet. Now, you may recognize this pool if you watched the video last week. This actually came from a pre-release kit I opened on the channel. So this is where that pool comes from. But today we're going to break it down and kind of dissect it and create a deck out of it. All right, so the first thing I did, which I did before I turned on the camera, was I separated the cards into color piles. So we have, of course, our 5 colors. I put non-basic lands off to the side. I also put the multicolored cards off to the side and the artifacts. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'll move these aside so that you get a better view. But I'm going to look through each of the 5 piles, and I'm going to first omit any cards that I feel like are maybe more sideboard cards. These are cards that I don't really want to main deck. They're cards that I feel like I might bring in under certain matchups, but they're not something I want to start off my main deck with. So we're going to go in color pie order. We'll start with white, and I'll kind of talk through some of these. The cartouches are great if I have good trials. I don't love the white cartouche unless I really have the advantage by going wide based on some of the other cards in my deck, or I have good trials. Impeccable timing, I have a couple of these, and these are fine removal spells for 2. They're not the best removal you'll find, because sometimes 3 damage isn't going to cut it, and also the claws that they have to be targeting, they have to be attacking or blocking, can be a little painful from time to time if the opponent has a creature with good ability on it, but it's very runnable, good card. Time to Reflect is great removal if you have the zombies to back it up. This is a good creature. Happy to play something like that. This is another creature that's just fine. Here is one of the trials. Not one of my favorite ones, because this one is a little more contingent upon other stuff going on the board at that time, but it's still decent, especially if you have some cartouches to back it up. Anointer Priest is good, of course, if you have a lot of token or embalm cards. Another cartouche. Vizier is just fine. Binding Mummy, another card that I'd be fine playing a 2/2 for 2. This one I'm only interested in is if I have some synergies with -1/-1 counters. If not, I'm probably skipping that one, but I'll keep it in here for right now. Another Anointer Priest, that's worth noting. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Forsake the Worldly. Exile target artifact or enchantment. It does have cycling, so I'm not punished too bad if I main deck this, but I'm not going to. I'm going to hopefully have enough playables where I don't feel like I need to do that. This is a card here, the Juro's Resolve. This is good with Exert creatures, so I'm not going to get rid of it now, but if I don't see a lot of good Exert creatures soon as I go through, this is one that's easily expendable, and this is another fine creature. So our white looks okay, like it's nothing super exciting. It's fine, but I'm hoping for something a little, I don't know, grander. So, all right, let's look at our black and see if that's any better. I do like Festering Mummies. I do think if you have a -1/-1 theme going on, sometimes that can come into play, but also just a 1/1 for 1 that can potentially take out another small creature or reduce the size of a 2/2. I'm okay running those, so it's fine. Another card that plays well with the -1/-1 idea. Again, I feel the same way about the black cartouche as I do the white one. I'll play it if I have good reason to play it, and that would be good trials. All right, Cruel Reality. Now we're talking. This is a mythic. It's the only mythic we pulled out of this particular pool, and it's a good one, though. I mean, it costs 7. It's 2 black, but you can win the game a lot of times if you get this out. So, okay, that's looking a little better. All right, 2/1 flyer for 3. Not super exciting, but it is a flyer. Sometimes that's just good enough. Dispossess, a great example of a card that is a sideboard card. I could very well sideboard this in if my opponent has a problem that I'm having trouble dealing with after game 1, but in all reality, I'm not going to main deck this. Okay, for 2, now a cycle or discard advantage card, and we got another one of those, so I want to keep that in mind. I like these, even if I'm not trying to do anything tricky with these. Just returning creatures from the graveyard to your hand is sometimes just like card advantage, especially in a card like this where you can get 2. So it's like cycling this and drawing another card, but actually being able to choose 2 creatures that are in your graveyard. So as long as you have that board state, this is a great card. So I like those type of cards. There's another Mummy and another card where cycling or discard matters. Okay, so we saw a really good card here. But unfortunately, our black's real thin. We don't have a lot to choose from. And splashing this could be a little bit difficult because it is too black. Now, it's something I really want to play, but can we pull it off? I guess we'll find out. Let's keep going. All right, let's look at blue. I actually went out of color order. Said I was going to go color pie order. Oh well. All right, so I like this a lot. These draw twos are good. Like running one of these in my deck usually I think is a good thing. What's nice about Amonkhet is cycling does allow you to move through your deck a little bit quicker at times, which I do like a lot, and it makes some of the draw spells maybe a little less important than in other formats. But I still like to have them. And even if it's just one or two, I like to have them. So this is a great card for me. Trial of Knowledge is awesome too. If we have some cartouches to back that up, that becomes even better. Decision Paralysis. I mentioned this when the card was spoiled. It's not exciting because we've seen the same card cheaper in the past, but you know what? We don't have that in Amonkhet, so it's actually a good card. I'd be happy to run it. Clone with Embalm, that's phenomenal, actually, in Limited. I'm happy to play this in a game of Sealed, so this is a actually pretty good creature. It's a little board state dependent, and there are times where it's a dead draw for you, where it's not really doing a whole lot, but I love the Embalm factor that it has a chance to maybe make good if it doesn't do well the first time. Now I got Oracle. This card's awesome for sifting through your deck, maybe mid to late game, and you don't want to hit any more lands. You just want to hit heat. This is a great way to just dump the next few lands in your graveyard and get to the heat. I love this card, actually. Seeker of Insight. It's a contingent looter, but you know what? It's still a looter. I would be happy to play it most of the time, I think. Here's a cartouche that gives something flying. Again, I'm not super into this card unless I have good trials, but we did see the blue trials, so that's pretty cool. Cryptic Serpent, good card. I mean, it's a 6/5, it's a big creature, and even if I'm just running one or two instants or sorceries in my deck in Sealed, I'm okay. I feel like the value is good enough. Angler Drake is maybe one of the best uncommons in the set. I mean, this thing getting a 4/4 for 6 with flying and also bouncing something that your opponent controls, or in a pinch, maybe that you control if you need to. That's actually kind of awesome. So this card can really kind of flip the board state. And here's another great card, Glyph Keeper. It's got Embalm, and your opponent's going to have a hard time getting rid of this one. The best defense against this card is some flyers. Even if they're small flyers, they can block it. But still, if your opponent doesn't have that, or they only have it for the first go-around and you bring it back with Embalm, they're going to have a real hard time dealing with this card. Winds is a good tempo play. I like it, or a way to protect your stuff. Another one of these draw twos. Essence Scatter, classic card. I mean, it's great. A flyer with cycling. And finally, this River Serpent, which is a 6 casting cost. It's a good blocker, if nothing else. I'm not super high on this card, but it's not unplayable. So, all right, I kind of like our blue a lot. I feel like blue so far out of the 3 colors is definitely where I want to go. Let's look at green. Crocodile Crossing, I think, is just fine. Now, here we go. The green cartouche. This is the best cartouche. I mean, it's basically removal. Some of the best removal, maybe the best removal you'll find in green. Haze of Pollen, I only like these effects, these fog effects, if I have a lot of them. So I'm going to put this one aside for now and take it out of the pile. Destroy target artifacts with cycling. Here's another example. It's got cycling, so I won't be completely punished for playing it, but I'm going to take it out. Curia Hauler. Okay, that's fine. This card, I like my Death Touchers to be able to defend. This one can't defend with Death Touch, but it's still good enough for two mana. I'm happy to play it. The Initiate's Companions, these cost 2, they're 3/1s. I mean, if they do get some damage across, you can get a bonus out of them. However, a lot of times these just simply trade up for a 3-drop or 4-drop, so I'm pretty happy to run these. Champion of Ronos, I mentioned in the video, I think the other day or yesterday, that I'm not super high on this card for standard purposes because it's a little too contingent, right? Like, you have to play it, you have to be able to untap with it, then attack with it, then it exerts, then you have to have a good target in your hand. You're asking for a lot of things to go right in the world of standard or in any sort of like competitive constructed format. However, in the world of Sealed, you have a lot less removal coming at you. And you know what? Even if this thing doesn't have a target to hit with the exert power, still a 3/3 for 4. Like, that's good enough in the world of Sealed. So I'm happy to run this. And we actually got 2 of them because we also got our foil premium promo card too. So I'm happy to run both of them. This is a good card if I do want to splash a 3rd color, but it also slows down the game, and that can be important at times too. Another Companion, another Query Hauler, Mana Dork, so that's pretty cool. And, okay, Hooded Brawler is another good creature, a 3/2 for 3, and I can exert it for an attack and as a 5/4 periodically. Another Cartouche, that's phenomenal. Trial of Strength, great with these 2 green cartouches. I think I found our colors here. I haven't looked at red yet, but these are great. Untap and a combat trick. This is good again with Exert, but I haven't seen a lot of Exert other than the champions, so okay, maybe. And then I like the Sandworm. It's a 7/7 for 7 that also has a little bit of mini evasion, but you can cycle it away. It's a pretty good card. Okay. Now, I'm pretty high on Simic colors, but let's look at red. We're starting off with a real good card though. 4/3 for 2, and you have to just discard when it enters the battlefield. This is a phenomenal card. Deemworthy, really good removal card in limited. Hyena Pack is a curve filler. True Heart Twins, fine if you're going wide, but it doesn't look like our pool is doing that, so I might just remove these right now. Cartouche in red, again, it's okay. It's not something I've run without really good trials. I'm probably going to put this aside and wait to see what my opponent's playing. And again, these are good if I'm going wide. Doesn't appear that that's going to be my... A couple more cartouches. Gee, okay. 6/4 for 6 is okay. Another curve filler. Fling's awesome. Fling's a phenomenal card. Yeah, this is okay. I'm probably not playing this though most of the time. Let's have a way to buff it pretty consistently. Brute Strength's fine, and this again is another sideboard card. All right, so red's okay. It's got a couple real good cards, but like nothing that feels cohesive to me. Let's look at our multicolor cards. I mean, Reduce to Rubble I could play as a blue counterspell, but I feel like our cards in the Simic colors are a little more aggressive and less controlling, so I'm probably not going to go the control route. I'm probably just going to try to fill my extra spots with removal and card draw and some card advantage, so and I'd be happy with that. I don't really think this or either of these will be too helpful. We don't have enough zombies for the Servant to be great, and we can't really go wide consistently for this, so alright. What do we got in artifacts? I mean, this is good. This, although I would consider more of a sideboard card if my opponent is aggressive. So I'm going to put that on the sideboard. I really don't see myself ever running these. I mean, they just don't do enough, unfortunately. And finally, Throne of the God. Yeah, I don't really see this in at least the cards we have in our pool being that great. So again, it only costs 2, but I feel like I'd rather just have a creature at the 2 drops. So I'm just going to take that out. As far as our now basics go, Evolving Wilds, I want to keep that aside in case I decide to splash. But we don't, so far it looks like Evolving Wilds is our only option for splashing, and that's probably not enough. So I'll keep it aside, but I'm probably not going to do that. This really isn't going to help our deck at all, so get rid of that. Okay, so here's the deal. I like green, I like blue. I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, you know what? There's a couple cool cards in red that I could have splashed for, but with only Evolving Wilds as my option for that, I'm not going to do it. I think I got enough playables here in these 2 colors, and I'm happy with that. Same with white. Couple good cards, but I'm not going to splash anything, so there it goes. See you, white. And finally, black. I really wanted to play that Cruel Reality, and I think here's the good lesson for you. We got great playables in these 2 colors, but wouldn't it be nice to be able to splash for this? But it's double black. Even though it's 7, you have time to get there. I just don't feel like the resources are there in this pool, and I'd rather just make sure the deck is more streamlined and we don't run into mana trouble. So I'm sadly going to put this away and cut all the black cards. All right, next step. I'm going to look at, and again, since we're, well, I don't know, I won't completely discount this, and I'll talk about that as we get to the mana base, but I'll put that aside. All right, so let's count up how many cards we had if we were to play all these. Obviously, we want about 23 playables, 17 lands on average. And I think from what I've seen from these cards, that should be fine. So let's count these up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So we have a lot of cards here. We're going to have to make some cuts. My next thing I'm concerned about is how many creatures I have, because I want to make sure I have around at least 14, 15 creatures minimally, but probably more like 15, 16, perhaps even 17 creatures. Just depends on the deck. So I'm going to separate my creatures out from my other spells. And we're going to see how many creatures we have. And that's going to give us an idea of where our cuts need to be. Do they need to be in the creatures, or do they need to be in the other spells, or both? Creature. Seems like we got a lot of creatures, so that's good. So that's another thing. Sometimes your color looks great, but you just don't have enough creatures to run it, or maybe even in both your colors that look good, look the best. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 creatures. So we're great. We can cut some creatures. Now, my next step is I'm going to look at the mana curve we have. And I'm usually going to separate these into 2 different mana curves. I'm going to have a mana curve for creatures and one for other spells. And that's how I'm going to start thinking about making my cuts. Because I have a little bit reduced space here on the camera, I'm going to just do them separately. But typically I would usually do this together. But either or, it's fine. I know I can cut some creatures, so I'm going to do that. All right, so we got 6, 5. Get this on camera so y'all can see it pretty well. There we go. All right, 5. Here's another 6. Another, oh, that one's a 7. That's expensive. All right. So when I start making cuts for these creatures, what I'm going to do, I'll pan around so you can see, and we'll look at each one individually. I'm going to probably start on the higher end of the curve and then move down the curve, because if I'm going to make cuts, most of the time I'm going to be making the cuts for the more expensive stuff if I have too many big things. I have a lot of 4-drops. That could be a problem. We're going to have to look at that. 4-drop, 4-drop. Okay. So a couple of things that just stand out immediately here. All right, and oh, I forgot my sandworm. I put that in the wrong pile. Okay, I knew there was a sandworm there too. Okay, so let's start off with the top of the curve. I got 2 7-drop creatures. I don't want 2 7-drop creatures in this deck. We don't have a lot of ways to increase our mana. We have the 1 mana dork, and we do have this creature that we can sacrifice to put a land into play tab. So we got a couple ways to increase our land a little bit, or our mana a little bit, but I don't really want 2 7s. So I'm going to keep the worm because I think that's just a better card than the serpent, and I'm fine with the 1-drop or the 1 7-drop, especially since it can cycle. Let's look at our 6-drops. Again, I love the Angler Drake. Not a big fan of the River Serpent, so that's going to go. Our 2 5-drops I think are good, and I'm starting to get a little more comfortable to have 2 5-drops, and they're both good cards. I'm going to keep them for now. All right, 4-drops, we got to make some cuts here. We got too many creatures at the 4 spot. All right, the Crocodile's good. The Quarry Hauler I don't think is really doing all that much in this deck, so that can probably go. I want to keep the Champions because they could help us power out some of the bigger things. There's another Quarry Hauler. I like the Clone, so I'm going to keep that, and the Naga Oracle is awesome, so I'm just going to cut those. We only have 1 3-drop creature right now, which isn't ideal for our curve, but I think it's okay considering we have so many good 4-drops and some decent 2s. So yeah, this is a good card. I'm going to keep it. And then our 2-drops, yeah, I like this enough to keep it. I like the Companions enough. I definitely want to keep the Mana Dork, and I think this is good enough. It's not always going to be a loot for us, but looting is good, so I'm happy with it. And finally, I'll keep this around as a 1-drop, more so to slow down the game than anything at this point, but once in a while ramping with it might actually matter, so we'll go ahead and keep that. All right, now I'm going to take all of the cards that were the other spells, not the creatures, and look and see what we got here. So how many creatures do we end up with? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so 16 creatures. All right, so that gives us an idea anyway. We want to keep about 7 of these spells. All right, here we go. 2, 2, 2, 4, 4, 4. A lot of 4s again. 3, 3, 3, 3. Okay, at least we have some 3s here. That's a good thing. But we want to narrow these down to 7 cards. I like the cartouches, and especially these cartouches these are basically our removals, so they're staying. And I like the blue cartouche because I like the 2 trials. So those are definitely staying. So I know I'm playing with those 5 cards. So that leaves only a couple more of these that I can keep. And I'm thinking to myself, I want 1 of these draw 2s. I don't need 2, but I do want 1 of them. So let's get rid of the other one. We don't have any, well, we don't have a lot of exert. We have the Champions, but they may or may not be exerting frequently, so I don't really care about that. Essence Scatter is a great card, but this isn't really the deck for it. Like, I want more control style, sort of methodical deck to run this. I don't just want a 1-of. So I'm going to go ahead and put that away. Sorry for the camera cuts. My camera keeps doing some weird things. I had to stop a couple times. The cards aren't just moving magically. All right, so I still have to make one more cut here. I think Winds of Rebuke is a very good card. Like, I'm really happy to play this card, and I could even see myself boarding it in a lot. But I think I'm going to keep the other two. I want to keep the Draw 2. I think that's important, especially with cycling. I think it's a good card. And also the Decision Paralysis. The Draw 2, just simply so I can get through my deck. And I do think the Decision Paralysis can have a bigger impact, especially considering some of the big creatures we're running. They can get across for some maybe extra damage with a card like this. So I'm happy to run these two, and I think that should hit 23 cards. So let's see what we got. If I remove those other cuts. All right, so let's count up this final deck here. We should have 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay, perfect. I'm going to count up how many blue cards I have now, how many green cards. I'm also going to make a mental note as I do that, how many double blues and double greens I have, because that will sometimes matter when it comes to how many lands I decide to use of each color or each type. And then finally, I'm also going to make a mental note of my low drops. Like, are my 2 and 1 drops more green or more blue? Because sometimes that matters as well. So let's count up the blues. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And green, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. So we have a little more on the green side than the blue side. Another thing too, when it comes to the double spells, they're all pretty high on the curve. So I'm not too worried about that. I mean, the lowest one is a 4-drop. We also have the 5-drop, 6-drop, 7-drop. So I'm not too concerned about that. There are more low drop green cards, however. We got these cartouches, we got the Trial, we have the 1-drop in green, we got some of these companions. So I definitely want to hit my green early. Also the Mana Dork, that's another good reason to hit your green early. So I could see doing 9 forests and 8 islands for this. I could also see maybe doing 10 forests and 7 islands instead. I think that would be acceptable. Some people might want to run the Evolving Wilds for consistency and do 8 and 8 with the Evolving Wilds. I don't think this deck needs that. I don't think that'd be wrong necessarily, but I don't think this deck needs it. It will slow it down a little bit, and I think this deck wants to be a little bit quick and fast and like get those companions down fast and that type of thing. So because this is slightly more on the aggressive side, I would tend to not run the Evolving Wilds. If I'm more controlling and methodical and have some counter magic and stuff like that, I might be a little more apt to do that. But at least for this build, I think I'd be fine doing probably 10 and 7. I probably would do 10 and 7 just because of the low drops being so tilted towards green, including the Mana Dork there. I feel like, okay. Now the Mana Dork, unfortunately, can only give you colors that you already have in basic lands. So that's a little bit frustrating compared to something that maybe could give you blue or green consistently, but it's still fine. It's good enough. It's more of a ramp card than a color fixing card in a deck like this, so I'm okay with that. So overall, that's our deck. I'm actually pretty happy with it. I think this could do really well. This is a pretty strong pool, and you know, sometimes you get good pools, sometimes you don't. You kind of make the deck based on what you have and you do your best. This probably isn't the only answer. So you may have watched this video and said you think you would go into another direction, and that's totally cool. I mean, a lot of it too depends on what cards you're comfortable with and what playstyle you're comfortable with. You don't want to necessarily play with cards you're unfamiliar with all the time, even if they do seem to be good, because you sometimes will make more errors that way. So kind of know your playstyle too and what type of cards you gravitate towards, because there isn't any one right answer when it comes to building a seal pool, right? I think the biggest lesson to take from this pool though is we could have really been suckered in by that green myth, the black mythic we saw earlier, because it's a real good card, but splashing it in this pool I don't think would be efficient enough, and trying to go black instead of one of these other colors I think would take our general power level way, way down. I think these were the two colors that had the best cards in them. So that's all stuff you get used to the more you play and the more you build sealed pools. So I hope this is helpful to you. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts. Is this something you'd like to see as a regular series going forward? I'm thinking maybe next time, instead of just opening the pre-release kits like I normally do, because those videos are only like 4 or 5 minutes anyway, that I could simply open them and build the deck in the same video. So let me know your thoughts. Until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.